The alarm on my scanner screamed so loud that I dropped my toolkit. A ship was falling out of the sky, trailing black smoke, cutting through the clouds like a wounded bird. I was standing on the edge of my scrapyard at the border station, the same yard where I fixed old engines for anyone who could pay, and for a moment I froze, watching death rain down from orbit. It hit the ridge half a mile from my home. The ground shook so hard that dust fell from my ceiling. Every instinct told me to lock my doors and wait for the patrol drones to handle it. Alien wrecks were common near this border, and most people knew better than to go near one. But something inside me could not just sit and wait. I grabbed my medkit and ran. The wreck was still hissing when I reached it, metal groaning, sparks falling like rain. I forced open a bent hatch with a pry bar, coughing on smoke, and climbed inside. That is when I saw her. She was chained to a wall panel, wrists raw, her skin a pale shade of blue-gray, eyes wide with fear when they landed on me. She looked starved. Bruises covered her arms. A thin metal collar was locked around her throat, blinking with a faint red light. She was not the pilot. She was a prisoner. I did not think. I just acted. I cut through the restraints with a torch from my kit, careful not to burn her skin, and pulled her free, just as another explosion rocked the ship. We ran together, her leaning on me, until we were far enough away to breathe. Back at my house, I did what anyone with a conscience would do. I gave her water first, then food, then clean bandages for her wounds. She flinched at every sound, watching the door like something might come through at any second. She barely understood my language, but she understood kindness. I could see it in the way her shoulders slowly lowered, hour by hour, as she realized I was not going to hurt her. Her name, she finally told me in broken words, was Naira. She would not tell me where she came from, or who had done this to her. Every time I asked, her eyes turned distant, like she was replaying something terrible, so I stopped asking. I just kept helping. For 3 days, she stayed in my home. I taught her simple words. She taught me a strange, graceful way of nodding that meant thank you in her culture. We shared meals in silence that never felt awkward. I made her laugh once, with a bad joke about my broken coffee machine, and the sound of it surprised us both. She looked at me one evening, firelight reflecting in her eyes, and asked why I was helping her when I had nothing to gain. I told her the truth. I said some things do not need a reason. She needed help. I could give it. That was all. On the 4th morning, I woke up and she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty blanket, folded neatly on the chair. Worry gnawed at me all day. I told myself she probably found her way back to whatever she was running from, or running to. I never expected to see her again. 6 days later, the sky turned dark at noon. I stepped outside when I heard the sound, a deep hum that vibrated in my chest before I even saw the source. Ships. Not one, not a dozen, but hundreds, descending in perfect formation, blotting out the sun like a moving eclipse. My neighbors ran for shelter. Sirens wailed across the settlement. I stood frozen in my yard, certain this was the end of everything I knew. A single shuttle broke away from the main fleet and came straight toward my home. My heart pounded as it landed, kicking up dust and scorching the grass. The ramp lowered with a hiss. Armored figures marched out first, weapons held with precision, forming 2 lines. I braced myself for the worst, ready to run, ready to beg, ready for anything except what happened next. They knelt. Every single one of them dropped to one knee and bowed their heads. Then she stepped out. It was Naira, but not the broken, starving woman I had pulled from the wreckage. She wore armor plated in gold and deep violet, a crown of light circling her head, like a halo made of pure energy. Her posture was different now, straight and powerful, radiating authority that made the air itself feel heavier. Behind her stood officers with medals I did not recognize, all of them watching her with a mixture of awe and nervous respect. I could not move. I could not speak. All I could think was that I had made some terrible mistake, that I had hidden a criminal, a spy, something dangerous, and now the punishment had arrived at my doorstep. She walked toward me slowly, her guards remaining perfectly still, and when she reached me, she did something I never expected. She bowed her head to me, the same graceful gesture she had used in my home, the one that meant thank you. Then she spoke, her voice steady and clear, carrying across the silent yard for everyone to hear. She told them who I was. She explained that when her ship was attacked by traitors within her own empire, when officers she trusted had turned against her and left her chained inside a burning ship meant to crash and kill her quietly, it was not her armies who saved her. It was not her allies or her advisors. It was a stranger on a small, unknown world who saw a suffering person and chose to help without asking a single question about rank or species or reward. She was not just Naira. She was the ruling monarch of an empire that spanned countless star systems, an empire so vast that entire wars had been fought over succession to her throne. Rivals within her own court had staged a takeover, faking her death, trying to seize power while she quietly disappeared. If I had turned away that night, if I had locked my door and let the drones handle it, the empire would have crowned a false ruler within days, and no one would have ever known the truth. Her officers stood stunned. I could see it in their faces. Disbelief that a species they considered primitive, disorganized, and weak had done what their entire military failed to do. They had searched for her using scanners, tracking systems, entire fleets combing through debris fields, and yet it was one person with a pry bar and a medkit who found her first and asked for nothing in return. Naira turned to her officers and spoke words I did not understand, but the reaction was immediate. Every soldier present straightened further, eyes fixed on me now, with something that looked like genuine respect rather than suspicion. She turned back to me and switched to my language, slower this time, more careful with each word, as if she wanted to make sure I understood every part of it. She said that mercy without condition was something rare in her world, something almost mythical among her people, spoken of in old stories but rarely seen in reality. Her culture valued strength, alliances, and calculated loyalty. What I had given her was none of those things. I had given her kindness simply because she needed it, and that single act had saved not just her life, but the future of her entire empire. She offered me anything I wanted, wealth beyond imagination, technology decades ahead of anything my world had, a place among her advisors, even a seat within her royal court if I desired it. I stood there, overwhelmed, and realized I did not want any of it. I told her the truth again, the same truth I had given her days earlier in my quiet home. I did not help her for a reward. I helped her because she needed it. Something shifted in her expression when I said that, something softer beneath the crown and armor. She nodded slowly, understanding settling into her features, and instead of insisting, she simply extended her hand toward mine, a gesture from her culture that I had learned meant equal standing between two people, not ruler and subject. Before she left, she made one announcement that would echo far beyond that single afternoon. She declared, in front of her entire fleet, that humanity would no longer be viewed as an unknown or minor species at the edge of known space. She spoke of an alliance, formal recognition, protection under her empire's banner, all because of what one person had done without hesitation, without fear, and without expecting anything back. As her shuttle rose into the sky, joining the massive fleet above, I stood in my yard surrounded by scorched grass and the quiet hum of engines fading into the clouds. My neighbors slowly emerged from their shelters, staring at me with wide eyes, unsure what they had just witnessed. I did not have grand words for them. I only knew that a simple choice, made on instinct in a burning ship days earlier, had rippled outward further than I could have ever imagined. Somewhere among the stars, an empire now looked toward a small, quiet world with new eyes, not because of our weapons or our wealth, but because one of our people chose compassion when it would have been far easier to look away. That night, long after the fleet disappeared beyond the horizon, I sat outside under a sky full of stars, wondering how many of those distant lights now knew my name, and knowing that none of it would have mattered to me if I had made a different choice that day. Sometimes the smallest acts carry the heaviest weight, and sometimes kindness, given freely, changes the course of history in ways we never see coming.